okay? Cause otherwise I'ma rise up in your face.
Andy, we haven't spoken in a while, and a lot of things have happened since we've spoken. The EPL was a crazy season. We had Liverpool winning. The top four race was as interesting as it could get, honestly. Go back here. So Liverpool winning. They finished the season with 99 points, 1 point away from that infamous 100. What were your thoughts about the Liverpool team, how they played, and were they even the best team in the league that year?
Well, I think a lot of people over the last couple of years have seen Liverpool building and building and building this team. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp has had such an impact on the program. And really, I think winning that Champions League last season kind of spurred them on to this season where they were able to, get more signings in, build this team up, especially in their defense has really been so strong. And I think this year it was just bound to happen. It was time. Manchester City had dominated the Premier League for the last two seasons. And I think it was time for them to make their mark and finally break the curse of not winning for over 30 years. And I just think, they put it together. Their team is so strong. I really was impressed the most with that front three of Salah, Mane, Firmino. They're just deadly. They score goals consistently, and that was just the key to their success was just the amount of goals they scored, how good their defense was, and their ability to finish games off even when they had trouble. I know they lost a few games here and there and then didn't make the 100-point mark, but still I don't think it really matters because everyone knew even when the restart happened that they were going to be crowned champions of England.
And it was kind of eerie a little bit. There were a couple of similarities between Liverpool's winning title season and last year's Manchester City winning title season, to where, like you said, it seemed like in the last dying moments, Liverpool would get that one goal to get 3 points. So we get that one goal to secure a draw. And you would think back to last year when Sterling had a couple late season goals or last minute goals to save City those 3 points. You're really going to have a little bit of luck to go your way to win the title. And ultimately, Liverpool had not just luck. They had a lot of talent, and the gap between number one and number two this year was, I believe, 18 points. And when you have that, you're doing something right. The top four race now, Liverpool, Man City, Man U, and Chelsea. On the last day, it still hadn't been decided. It was between Chelsea, Man U, and Leicester. And unfortunately, Leicester now, on the outside looking in. What were your thoughts on Leicester and how they did this season?
Well, I thought that they were going to secure it after the restart started, but then they had some really, really poor performances down the stretch where they were losing games and just not playing like they did in the regular season before coronavirus happened. And I think it was really surprising to me that Leicester let it slip and let Manchester United and Chelsea back in. I thought Jamie Vardy was one of their keys to their success. He was just scoring goals and without stopping, and he almost won the Golden Boot. He was literally right there, and they just fell apart. And it was really, really shocking. I thought that was one of the surprises in the top four race was that Leicester didn't make it after playing so well in the season. But I think Brendan Rodgers, though, has some hopes for next year after that performance. I think they have a good team as long as they, do the right things, maybe buy some more talent, and then just keep these guys on contract that they have to keep on scoring goals and keep on playing good football. I think you could see them making another top four run for next season.
Oh, yeah, I definitely see that as well. As long as they keep Vardy, they should be fine. You also had teams like, Sheffield United that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I think that this season, more so different than other seasons, you had more competition. Yeah, obviously Liverpool just blew everyone out of the water, but it's like with positions 2 through 6, it was wide open for most of the season. What were your thoughts on just the openness of the season and sort of the competition that we had? Do you think that's going to be, captured in the next season?
Yeah, I think the competition could get better. I think we're still going to be looking at Manchester City and Liverpool fighting for the title. I don't think that that's going to change for next year. Uh, if you look at the table, I mean, Manchester City was well ahead of everyone else from spots 2 to 6.
Mhm.
Now, uh, I think from 3 to 6, though, it was very, very close. I mean, you had Man United, Chelsea, Leicester, Sheffield, Wolves, just kind of those teams right there fighting for each other. I think, Wolves, to me, I think really was the team that I thought would make the top 4 out of that, because they were playing really, really well, and they have been the last 2 seasons since they made it up from the championship. Now, I think Sheffield was the surprise. I was very, very shocked that they made it into the top 6, because they just came up from the Premier League, but they put together some great performances, had a lot of upset victories over traditional top 6 sides, and really, really played well throughout the course of the season. Now, I know they didn't get to Champions League, but they were very, very close, and I thought it was an admirable performance. Uh, Other teams, even in the mid-table, I was shocked that Arsenal and Tottenham were as low as they were.
Mhm.
I thought that they could have done a lot better, especially Arsenal, who ended up winning the FA Cup this year. I thought that they had a lot of talent, and they showed it in the FA Cup, but for some reason in the Premier League, they just couldn't find that rhythm, that form. But I know Arteta's getting there, and I think Arsenal will be up there fighting for Champions League, maybe even Premier League title. Who knows? I mean, they've got a lot of talent to use, so hopefully for them, they will start a nice little streak in the Premier League. And then Tottenham as well, I think they were a disappointment. I thought Jose Mourinho uh, was very underperforming over there. I know it was his first season, still a lot to work with that team, but they have talent. They have a lot of really good players, and I think their spot in the table was very, very low for a team like Tottenham.
Yeah, the special one, Jose. I thought you're right. Tottenham, they underperformed by a lot. Now that has to do with injuries to Harry Kane and Son and all of that. But I believe next year they'll get it back to form. That was really my only surprise of this season. In the middle of the year, you would I guess 23 games in, you look at the table and Tottenham was like 10th, 9th or 10th. And you're like, what? That doesn't usually happen for a team like Tottenham. Arsenal, I agree with you. I don't know why they would perform outside of the EPL well, and then when it came to the EPL, they would just choke. I believe Arteta, like you said, is going to sort of revamp the energy, revive them a little bit with that front three of Aubameyang, Pepe, and Lacazette. If only he would play all 3 of them at the same time, then I think Arsenal starts winning some more games. Looking at the table right now, Sheffield finished 9th with 54 points, but they were teetering with the Champions League, Europa League all season long. Wolves finishing 7th. Positions 6 through 10 were only between 5 points apart. You have Tottenham, you have Wolves, you have Arsenal, Sheffield, and Burnley. And maybe next year you may see a team like Sheffield, like Wolves, crack into the top 4 and actually beat teams like Tottenham, beat teams like City. We saw City lose to Wolves twice. They got swept by Wolves twice, 2-0 and then 3-2, after that infamous, Adam Traore game, where he stole the ball from Mendy and then assisted him across the 6-yard box. We won't get too much into that because that still scars me. But back on the Chelsea, I want to talk about Chelsea for a minute just because of what they've been able to do in this season. They had the transfer ban last year. They played other young players. Now they're getting star talents from all across the board. It's like a career mode basically in FIFA. What did you think about Chelsea this year, and how impressed were you with their team?
Well, I think Frank Lampard has really put together some pieces. Obviously, some of them just fell in his hands. He had guys, young talent, on his roster like Christian Pulisic, Mason Mount, and even Tammy Abraham. And I think they performed very well. And now, for such a young team, I think there were flaws. There were moments where they didn't perform up to the Chelsea way. But at the same time, they still have talent that has been there. A lot of older guys on their team that have been in the club for such a long time. So it's kind of a mix of old and new. But they were able to get the job done and get to Premier League, and I was really impressed with them. But also, they've had summer signings, and I think, the guys like Timo Werner and Hakeem Ziyech will really help improve this team, and whoever else they can get will be an added bonus to this team. And I think Lampard is moving in the right direction with Chelsea and will hopefully look to compete with City and Liverpool for the Premier League title in the next couple of years.
Yeah, you really look at Chelsea and what they're doing in the transfer market. You probably think 5 years from now, they would probably, if Lampard's still there, they would probably be number one, number two each year, just from the young talent standpoint of them developing that talent and for that talent to stay there. You talk about how they got Werner, they got Hakeem, and maybe possibly Kai Havertz. I believe that's how you say his name, from Leverkusen. If they were to get Havertz from Leverkusen, do you believe that they fight for the number one for the title next year?
I definitely do think they would be up there. I think, obviously it just really, you have to see the product on the field because, sometimes you can have a team that a lot of the star talent maybe clashes with each other, maybe there isn't good chemistry. But if they put a product out on the field that is successful with these guys, I think they can. I think they have the potential to fight for the title. Now, I think they will still be having to fight teams like City, Liverpool, Manchester United. It's not going to be easy, but like I said, I think they're moving in the right direction with these signings, and Lampard is starting to assemble a team that can compete with the best in the Premier League, but also the best in Europe.
Mm-hmm. And there's also been some recent news that Chelsea actually may sign Oblak from Atletico Madrid. I don't really give too much stock into that just because of the amount of players that they're already linked to. I mean, the amount of money that they have to spend for Oblak and with all the other players they're buying, if City can get away with it, Chelsea can get away with it. But I just don't think that Chelsea is going to run that type of money toward Oblak. Now, City also did some buying in the transfer market, getting Nathan Ake and Ferran Torres from Valencia. What did you think of those two signings?
Well, I was a little surprised with Nathan Ake. I thought that he would get bought by a big Premier League side because he was playing well, but I was a little surprised that he came to City. I just thought that maybe 45 million was a little much for him, but I guess he is a quality defender. He had a good season, a good couple of seasons at Bournemouth. He was one of their best defenders, but I was surprised 45 million I thought it was a little high. Maybe I was thinking more like mid-30s would be his price. But, I mean, City wanted him and they got him. So hopefully for them, he will be a nice addition to the defense that really needs some improvement. And then Ferran Torres from Valencia, don't really know too much about him. I haven't really watched him because I don't really watch as much La Liga as I should. But he seems like a really good player. Another guy to just add to City's strong midfield. So hopefully he can kind of get in and start, working with the team, and probably will get a few starts, whether it's in like Carabao Cup or FA Cup or whatever, they need him for. But, he's definitely, I guess, a future player that City can look for once he starts developing.
Yeah, these signings for me, they're definitely signings for the future. When you see, David Silva leaving after this year, you hear rumblings of Aguero possibly leaving after next year, maybe this year. John Stones really hasn't panned out the way you expect to. Otamendi, the same. So getting Ake mixed with him with Laporte is a good center back duo for me. And they're still relatively young, mid-20s. I think Ake is a little bit younger. But yeah, the signing to shore up defense was a major key for me. Ferran Torres, again, is probably going to be the successor to a Fernandinho, to a David Silva. We already have Rodri there. But, yeah, I thought those were pretty good signings for our future. And we go back to City selling Sane. with that money, I believe what was 58 million, right, that we got from him. I think, yeah, we had to do something with that money. So what we did with the money, getting a defender, getting a midfielder, was, I think, good business from the part after selling Sane. Now Sane at Bayern, that team was already complete enough. Now it seems a little bit unfair with the amount of speed they have on that attack. What do you think about Sane and the expectations for Bayern heading into next season?
Well, he just adds to the depth that Bayern Munich has, and I mean, you said they have speed. I mean, they've got Kingsley Coman, they've got uh, Leroy Sané, they've got Alfonso Davies. I mean, these guys are so fast, and they will cover ground very quickly on the counter, but also in defending. They're going to be a side that I think has the capability to win the Champions League either this year or next year, because they are building in talent and they've already got the pieces they need. I mean, honestly, I'll be honest, like Bayern Munich doesn't even need Leroy Sané. They already have what they need, but they're just adding on to more and more and more of what they've got. And I think they'll continue to do that because they'll have guys that eventually probably retire or move on from the club and go somewhere else. But I mean, Bayern Munich is definitely probably one of the stronger teams in Europe right now.
Yeah, maybe the strongest team in Europe right now. Moving on to Jadon Sancho, there's been news that he may go to Man U, he may stay. The CEO of Dortmund reiterated, I believe, Tuesday of this week, saying that definite means definite, meaning he's definitely staying at Dortmund. But he also said the same thing with Ousmane Dembele, who's now with Barcelona. What do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you give into the rumors that he will be leaving Dortmund and joining Man United?
I would say 1. I really think it's a done deal that he will stay at Dortmund. I just think right now it's the money's the issue. I think the price that Man United wanted to pay was significantly lower than what Dortmund was offering. And I think Dortmund was right to not let him leave, because I think they're a club right now that a lot of teams are not seeing as a team that you can go and be successful at. I think Dortmund is seen as a team that you can go play there, hopefully win a few trophies and compete for the Bundesliga. But then ultimately you're going to go to a team like, Bayern Munich. A lot of players have gone to Bayern Munich. I mean, look at Lewandowski. He came from Dortmund, but now is a superstar at Bayern Munich. I would also say, other players have gone to places like Barcelona, like Dembele, or, have gone to the Premier League. And I think that Dortmund needs to finally put a foot in the ground and say, all right, we need to keep these players like Sancho around so that way we can build a good team, because Dortmund is really good, but I just think they need to get to the level where they're not seen as a place that you can develop into a star and go somewhere else. They need to be a program that that could be seen as, hey, we're going to make you good here. You're going to play here and we're going to win trophies here. So that's, to me, where their mindset needs to be. And I think keeping Sancho kind of tells everyone else that, hey, we want to have good talent here and we're not going to sell them to you because, you think that that this player can be used in your team. Like, we want to keep him. So I think Dortmund was very smart to do that.
Yeah, Dortmund's really trying to put the plug in on them being a pipeline for Bayern, because it seems like the past 5 years, every good Borussia Dortmund player just ends up at Bayern. With Sancho, though, seeing some of his highlights and seeing the way he plays, especially against PSG in the round of 16, yeah, I know they lost, but he was still impressive. Do you think that there's an argument or even a debate as to whether he may be better than Mbappe or is on Mbappe's level when it comes to the 21 and under most talented in the world?
He's definitely the most talented out there, but I think Mbappe, just with the amount of stuff he's done, is still better. I know Mbappe hasn't won a Champions League, but Sancho hasn't either. I think Mbappe's won a World Cup. He's played for France. One of the youngest stars to, in his age to win a World Cup. And he's scoring goals consistently. I know, I know a lot of people talk about PSG being really too easy to play for because the talent level is not as great in France, and I do understand that. But like Mbappe though is a true talent because against bigger clubs in Champions League and the competitions that they've played, I think Mbappe has proven that he is a world-class player. But Sancho, though, I think is not far behind. I think he is a really good player. He's going to have a future, whether it's at Dortmund or in the next couple of years, maybe it's going to be somewhere else, but we'll see. I think he will continue to improve. But if Sancho can start maybe playing for England a little bit more, maybe who knows? They might win a Euro, might win a World Cup one day. I think then Sancho starts to move into the conversation of, greatest young talents or greatest of all time kind of discussion.
Mm-hmm. Well, a little bit too soon for greatest of all time, but we'll save that discussion for later. Liverpool have been recently linked to signing Thiago from Bayern Munich. I don't really see this happening. I don't think he really fits in with the style of play that Jurgen Klopp has designed and has instilled within Liverpool. Would it be a great signing? Of course, because he's a creative midfielder. And with the likes of Wijnaldum and Fabinho, maybe he could find a spot there. But with the way their midfield is set up, I don't really think they need him. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really think they need him, but I guess if one day Jordan Henderson moves on, which I would think is pretty close to happening, I would say, yeah, I mean, they could replace him with that. But I feel like Thiago's in a good spot. Bayern Munich, he starts pretty frequently for them. I don't see why he would leave, but I guess if Bayern wants him to move on, then they can sell him. But other than that, I think Thiago's probably going to stay put at Bayern.
All right, now transitioning to what I really want to talk about, the Champions League. Finally back. Single legs, which I don't really mind. I actually kind of prefer them over a double leg, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Recently this week, we are recording this on a Friday right before the Barcelona-Bayern Munich game, so we won't be able to talk about what happened during or after the game. But so far what we know is PSG versus RB Leipzig. Yesterday, that game between Atletico and Leipzig was, that was incredible. The ending to that game was awesome, much like the PSG-Atalanta game with PSG down 1-0, coming back and scoring 2 goals, reminiscent of Man City's game versus QPR almost to clinch the title. What were your thoughts on both those games and how both those games ended?
Well, I thought it was really interesting that PSG was able to come back in the stoppage time. It was crazy. Like, I thought Atalanta had nicked the 1-0 win because they scored early. They held on. The defense was strong, but then just one little silly mistake on defense gave them the equalizer. And then PSG was able to carve out a great goal from Choupo-Moting. Thought it was a really good move, but the first goal could have been avoided. It was just a bad defense on Atalanta's part. Let that happen. But I think for Atalanta, although it was heartbreaking, it was a great showing that they were able to get through to the quarterfinals in a competition that's not easy for smaller clubs to get through. But I thought they did a really, really good job. Now, in the RB Leipzig game, I thought, I thought they were really good. They moved really well on the counter. I thought Atletico Madrid was on their heels most of the game, but they did get that penalty that João Felix ended up capitalizing on. So they did fight, but then it ended up being Tyler Adams, the American, to seal the deal for RB Leipzig. So that was kind of cool to see an American be one of the first to score a goal past the quarterfinals in the Champions League
past the quarterfinals.
What would you say?
He was the first to score later.
Yeah, he was the first, and that's really, really cool because we don't have a lot of Americans out there that make it past that stage. I do think one day maybe we'll see Christian Pulisic in that situation. Don't know where he'll be playing, but Chelsea. If it is Chelsea, I could see that being a possibility. But right now, Tyler Adams has that trademark to his name, so that's really cool for him. And he'll be playing in the semifinal very, very soon on Tuesday. But yeah, it was a great showing from RB Leipzig. I really props to them without Timo Werner that they were able to make it this far.
Mhm. And I don't know about you, but for me, I hate the way Atletico play. Not with like the way they move the ball and they sit back and kind of park the bus, but the way they flop, the way if you touch them, you breathe on them, they're diving immediately. And Diego Simeon has been criticized of how he manages the team and how he plays that game in that style. I, for one, am kind of glad they're out because I think we'll get a much better game between PSG and RB. If I butcher this, sorry, Leipzig. Um, I just think we'll get a better game. And poor Atalanta, man, they were so close. I was pulling for them, just because I love a Cinderella story. And you think about the Champions League now. Last year it was Ajax, and sort of Tottenham as well, as teams you didn't think would come out of there and actually compete. Now this year you get Leipzig and you get Atalanta, you get Lyon, who just beat Juventus. Do you think that these smaller teams coming out and progressing to the quarterfinals, the semifinals, is it better than just seeing the regular old Bayern, Barcelona, Real, and PSG?
Yeah, I think for sure it's definitely fun for the fans of those clubs, but also it's just fun to watch if you love soccer because it adds a different element to the game where you have to respect this team for what they've done, especially with Ajax. I thought at one point they were going to make it to the finals of the Champions League. I mean, they were so close, just a few minutes away, and then Tottenham stole it back from them in that game. I thought, Ajax was fit to win it all, even beat Liverpool in the final, but it didn't happen. And I think RB Leipzig has a great shot. I mean, against PSG, if Atalanta was able to hold PSG scoreless for most of that game, I think RB Leipzig can do it as long as they put it together and finish the job to get to the final. So, definitely they have a chance. I think, that teams are starting to figure out the best path into the Champions League. And I think, a couple of years ago, it was exclusively the bigger clubs. I think everyone knew that because, I mean, if you go back, I actually kind of researched this, but if you go back and look at some of the group stages, it was a few teams, but if a small club played a big club in the round of 16, it was pretty much done for them. So it was pretty much big clubs playing from the quarterfinals on against each other. But now I think more teams are starting to build up and find their path into the Champions League. And sometimes it does require a little bit of luck. But also, I mean, there's been truly talented teams. And I think RB Leipzig, Ajax, even AS Monaco a couple years ago were showing people that this is a new trend that smaller clubs are starting to figure it out against the bigger clubs.
Mm-hmm. And that AS Monaco team, that brings me back. I remember one day, I believe I was in class and Manchester City was facing AS Monaco. I think it was the quarterfinals, right, of that year. And I just remember seeing that aggregate score of like 6-5, I think, and they just went gold crazy. And you look back on that team was so talented with names like Lamar, Mbappe. You had Benjamin Mendy, you had Bernardo Silva. Two players that City would end up buying, so you can't beat them, buy them. But what were we on about?
Oh, about the little teams.
Oh yeah, the little teams. I think this year it's different than other years. Like if Lyon were to beat City, which again I put my money on City, and Lyon were to make it to the semifinals, that'd be 2 straight years where you have sort of 2 smaller clubs. Yes, I'm calling Tottenham a smaller club. That make it to the semifinals and really progress, which you don't really see that often. But let's talk about the other side of the bracket. Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. The clash of the Titans, basically. What are your predictions for that game? What do you think is going to happen? Final score.
Well, everyone I've talked to and is saying Bayern Munich. And after watching the Barcelona-Napoli game, I think that everyone is wrong because I think Barcelona It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how they play. I know they've been inconsistent. I know that they've had their woes, their struggles. They lost the league title to Real Madrid. But at the end of the day, Messi is still on the field. Like, you can't defend the guy. I mean, he scored a goal on the ground against Napoli. Like, even Bayern Munich CEO says that Alphonso Davies will be able to guard Messi. Like, if I really think it's wrong. I really, really, really think it's wrong. I think Alphonso Davies might end up like Jerome Boateng after Messi scored that goal, the chip goal over Emmanuel Neuer. I really think it's going to happen. I don't like you just can't count out Barcelona when Lionel Messi's on the field. And I think Barcelona will win. I think it'll be like a 2-1, maybe 3-1 score. I just think that Barcelona is fit for this, and they're motivated to win this title. I know Bayern's good. I think Lewandowski will probably get a goal, maybe even two. We'll see. But I just think at the end of the day, Barcelona will win this game and upset Bayern Munich, who are probably the favorites to win it all.
Isn't it crazy to say that it's an upset if Barcelona wins? Like, that's how much Bayern's being favored by everybody. I mean, and with good reason. Bayern looks like the most complete team in all of Europe and all of the world. Lewandowski's just bagging goals left and right. That defense is as solid as ever. The midfield, as solid as ever. I mean, as a team from top to bottom, you really can't get much better than that. But I'm going to go with the opposing view. I'm going to say Bayern Munich will win. And I'm going to say in a 2-1 fashion. I hope there are more goals just to bring on the entertainment value. But I'm going to go with 2-1 Bayern Munich. You say 2-1 Barcelona, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now moving on to Manchester City versus Lyon. Obviously, we have our biases, right? I'm going to pick Manchester City. I think you shouldn't overlook Lyon. You shouldn't. After what they did to Juventus. Yeah, that penalty that Depay had was questionable. In their one goal in that game. But they still played well. They still somewhat shut down the attack, even though Ronaldo scored 2 goals. I just think that the Lyon defense won't be able to handle the attack from City. On the other hand, though, City's defense has looked a little bit leaky. You know what I mean? They just leaked in some goals. They look a little flat. Laporte doesn't look up to form. What do you think about the City's defense and how maybe Lyon can expose that?
Well, yeah, there were moments in the Real Madrid game where I kind of questioned the defense still. I thought, the Karim Benzema goal maybe could have been avoided because he got a free header. Everyone was just standing around, and he got an easy header into the goal. But I thought at the same time, I think, there have been a few improvements. I felt like there haven't been as many, I guess, mistakes as we've normally seen with City's defense. Like, there's been times where I've seen, like, playing out from the back tends to be an issue where City is, giving the ball away in, like, really good spaces for other teams. But, there are still things that they need to work on. They need to work on just defending, getting the ball away, and just, in these type of games, I feel like mistakes are costly, especially in a tournament style like this. Instead of playing 2 legs, you've got to stop the bleeding and stop and plug the holes where if possible. So I think just City needs to be smart, think with their head before you make any stupid decisions, and they'll be fine. I think as long as, they play smart, you get the ball away when you need to, pass efficiently, and try to keep the ball away from Ederson and the defense for long periods of time. They need to get the ball upfield to attackers like De Bruyne and Gundogan and Jesus and Sterling, instead of just passing the ball around. I think a lot of it is just playing from the back tends to be sometimes a little bit of a weakness. I know City can play from the back and it creates chances, but at the same time, if teams are starting to press up and figure out, that style, it can be kind of a hindrance if they give the ball away.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting that you say that because City is basically now, since Pep Guardiola came in, is known for playing out of the back with that passing goalkeeper that Ederson is, but he is prone to mistakes still, Ederson. He's given the ball away a couple of times in some key games in the EPL where you just think to yourself, man, why don't you just clear that? Why do you have to pass it back and forth tiki-taka style? Just get rid of it when you have to. So I do agree with that. But I mean, with most elite clubs, they always play out of the back. But like you said, it's kind of detrimental. Like we saw in Real Madrid versus Manchester City, Courtois giving it to Varane. Varane had nowhere to go, and it led to the eventual City goal. But yeah, so I really can't see that happening, especially with the likes of Depay. Depay is one of the most underrated strikers. Yeah, his time at Manchester United was a little underwhelming, but I mean, the management during that time when he was there at Manchester United wasn't the best. He wasn't getting that full display that he is now with Lyon. So what are your predictions on the final score for that game?
I think Manchester City will win. I don't know. I think it'll be pretty easy, honestly. I think, honestly, though, City will surprisingly win. I'm going to say 3-0. I think it's kind of a stretch.
Woo, okay.
It's a stretch, but I think City will win 3-0 because I just think the attack is, like what we said, is going to be too much for Lyon. I think Lyon is a good team, and, I'll be honest, like, although I say 3-0, I think I'll expect one goal maybe from them. But I'm going to say 3-0. I think City puts it together and gets to the semifinals, and it'll be comfortable. That's my prediction. And then I think that true test will come in the semis, whether it's Barcelona or Bayern Munich. But I just think City right now, even without Aguero, is still getting the job done. Obviously thanks to Kevin De Bruyne a lot, and then Gabriel Jesus has stepped up at times, and I've been really looking for that from him because he has to be the guy when Aguero leaves, unless City signs a huge striker one day. He has to be the guy to step up and be the man, that Aguero was, and he's done that so far. And I think City will have it together, and they will win 3-0.
Wow, 3-0. The 3 goals for me isn't a surprise. I do think, though, City will give away some goals. I'm going to go with a rather high-scoring game, a 3-2, with a couple late goals by both sides. So I would say Bayern versus Manchester City in the semifinals. Back to what you said about Gabriel Jesus. I think it's a little bit of an unfair criticism of what he's been given to. I mean, you're there to back up one of the greatest strikers ever in the EPL. And yeah, I get it. He's been there for 3 years now, I think. And his finishing on goal is his only criticism. But that's your main goal as a striker, is to score the ball. And the last game versus Real Madrid, he played pretty well, I think. And is he going to step up? Is he going to be able to fill that role? That's the question that's going to be answered tomorrow and as you progress forward into next season. I just think that he gets a little bit of unfair criticism just because, I mean, imagine walking in and you have to replace Lewandowski. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you're going to be expected to score some goals, but will you score at that goal rate that Lewandowski had? Probably not. So I just think we need to give Jesus just a little bit more time to develop and hopefully develop into what Aguero was and is, but I think that's a little bit unfair to think. So now the final predictions for the UEFA League Champions, for the UEFA Champions League, sorry. Final score, your predictions.
Wow. It's a huge toss-up. I mean, there's still so much left to play for. There's a lot of teams out there that still, have answers to prove, like Man City, like, Barcelona, even RB Leipzig and PSG. But, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what PSG does, and I think I have them in the final. I think they'll win. Not in the final, but win the semifinal against RB Leipzig. And then I'm saying, Bayern and Man City will be the big semifinal that everyone's looking for. I think, and I promise you my bias is not in this, but I think Manchester City will beat Bayern Munich. And here's why. I think that City has more motivation to
You
win
mean
this season.
Barcelona?
What'd you say?
You mean Barcelona?
Oh, yes, Barcelona. My fault. I had Barcelona. Yes, my fault. I had Barcelona in it. I think Man City will beat Barcelona because I think the counterattack and just the way City plays, it's so much different than the Man City that played Barcelona in the Champions League years ago when City was just first coming on the scene. Messi and Barcelona back then were like Pep's version of what he has now at City. And I think that the tables have turned, and I think City will beat Barcelona. I really don't know the score line, but I'm just going to say they win. I just think that they're playing a lot better than Barcelona, and I think Messi's run will end, even though that they are a really good team. And I just think, like I was saying, City has more motivation to win this season because of the UEFA ban, because of the things that have been coming out about them, about the how much money they spend, how everyone's calling them cheaters and stuff like that, and they got away with they were probably being banned for 2 years from Champions League. And I just think that the chip is on their shoulder. Like, it's a whole different team. Like the Real Madrid game in the Bernabeu, that just showed to me that City is so much better and can play like that consistently, even without Aguero. I mean, Jesus got a goal in that game, and so did De Bruyne from the penalty spot, and that basically put the game away because they were able to finish it off at home in the second leg. And that to me shows that City has improved and progressed and has this motivation to win because of the things that have come out about them. And that is why I think they'll beat Barcelona. So if we get to the final, it's PSG versus Manchester City.
Whew. I'm getting excited about that, man.
Yeah, that's a game that I would be, very concerned because you've got Mbappe, you've got Neymar. There's a really good team from PSG, but I think Manchester City overcomes the PSG threat and wins the Champions League final. And I just think that PSG will give away a few goals, probably to De Bruyne, maybe to Sterling. I think Sterling is a huge factor because even though we've talked about Jesus, Raheem Sterling has been probably one of the best players in England and maybe even in Europe right now, because the way he's played has just been such an improvement the last 2 years to how he was when he first got to City. And I think it's just a testament to Guardiola and the way that he has helped him improve his game. So Sterling, I think, will get a goal in the final. And then also maybe Kevin De Bruyne. I think City will win like 2-1 maybe, because I think PSG will get one goal. And then, City wins it all. And I just think that shows that Manchester City can finally win in Europe, and also just breaks the chip of teams like in the Premier League holding that over their head. And then City will probably be one of the greatest ever winners of the Champions League because of this season, just the way that it's been, that they've had to wait months to finish this tournament. And sure, it may have a kind of an asterisk on it, but I really think that people will look back and be like, man, like Man City won during the pandemic, like months after, and they had to overcome all these obstacles and win and just keep on winning. And even if City doesn't win, I think whoever does will have that same recognition, because like they would have had to have won 3 straight games, not playing a second leg after. You just have to win, and then you win probably one of the craziest tournaments ever played.
Yeah, I agree with that. Whoever wins should get the recognition, whether it be a City, a PSG, a Bayern, will and should get the recognition that this season, one of the hardest, if not the hardest season to win the Champions League. I agree with you with that point. I think, look, my bias is going to come in a little bit here. When it comes to NBA, my bias is taken away a little bit because I think the Clippers are better than the Lakers. And I'm a LeBron fan, so that means I'm a Lakers fan. But I can clearly see that. With here, though, it's kind of hard to decipher. I think, look, I will concede that Bayern is the best team in Europe, but then I'm going to say City is a close second. So when they meet in the semifinals, because I think that's what the semifinal matchup will be, I honestly think that's going to be the so-called final, honestly, between those two teams. And I'm going to say City's going to win just because I think it's their year this year. I think that everything's just kind of coming to place. I think a little luck's going to be involved. I'm not going to give a scoreline because I don't know. But I do agree with you that PSG is going to come in from the other side of the bracket. I think it's going to be Man City PSG. And I the quality on the field for the semifinal games is going to be unreal. This is what soccer fans all around the world want. Quality on the field. You just want to look at the pitch and be like, wow, how did he do that? When all the players could do that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think in the final, though, it's going to be a 1-1 draw in 90 minutes. I think it's going to go into extra time with City winning in extra time, possibly in penalties. I just don't see the game in 90 minutes being won. I think it's going to take a little bit longer. But with this year, finally Manchester City holding the crown of Europe and saying screw you to all those Liverpool fans. Moving on to the MLS. I have not really paid attention to the MLS at all. I'm not going to lie. Not a big MLS guy. I just don't really watch it. So as a person from the outside and you watching it, what's been happening with the MLS tournament? Who won? Give us some storylines. What happened?
Well, I mean, I thought it was really cool to see the teams come into the bubble in Orlando to play this MLS's back tournament. And I think a lot of people coming into it thought that, oh, this is all we're going to get from the MLS. Like, it's just a tournament to see who wins MLS Cup. But they said that, okay, this is just going to be a tournament that we count the games towards the records of the regular season. And then they're going to continue the season after it. So that was really cool that, like, they just wanted to play like a little tournament to get everyone back into form, back into shape. I thought the storylines would be like, who would come out victorious? Like, would we see the favorites kind of dominate, like Atlanta United or LAFC, maybe LA Galaxy? A lot of storylines with them as well. Like Chicharito came to fill in the spot that Zlatan Ibrahimovic had as another famous striker into LA Galaxy's history. So he got his first goal in the quarterfinal match, actually. So that was really cool to
Mhm.
see him get his first goal for MLS, and that was really cool. But LA Galaxy, LAFC, Atlanta United all didn't make it past the quarterfinals. Atlanta United didn't even make it past the group stage, and it was really surprising from a team like that. I know Joseph Martinez was hurt. He has out for the year with an ACL injury, but at the same time, Atlanta's got so much quality out on the pitch that it was really, really shocking that they didn't make it past. They lost all three of their games in the group stage, and really, really just terrible performance. Frank de Boer ended up getting fired, and now Atlanta's looking for a new coach right now before the season gets started. But I don't think they're going to find it for quite some time. So they'll be on the coach search right now. Other storylines, Orlando City finally had a run and did something. I know they get criticized quite a lot, especially by Atlanta fans, that they have no history. They don't do anything. They're just a big club that came in a couple years ago and has literally had some terrible performances. But now Orlando made the final against Portland, and they came up short. They lost 2-1, and Portland ended up winning MLS's back. But I thought for Orlando that Nani was a huge hero for them. He scored an incredible two goals in the semifinal against Minnesota United, and he just really was the star of the show for them. So Orlando finally had a run and did something special in the MLS, and I thought it was good for them as the host team to actually make the final. Obviously, as an Atlanta fan, I'm not a huge fan of Orlando since we're rivals. But, yeah, I mean, it was still cool to see them do that. And then Portland Timbers, as I just mentioned, won the whole thing. Portland has been a staple in the MLS for quite some time. Them and the LA Galaxy and Seattle Sounders have been kind of the blue bloods, you could say, because they've been around for quite some time. So Portland won, and I thought it was a good start to the season from them. Really impressed with them as a team. Diego Valeri is one of their big stars. He is, he's been there for quite some time, and he's led that charge there. But now, from this tournament going into the regular season, I think it's going to be interesting now that they're going to move back to home and away games. They're actually going to travel like the MLB is doing. They're going to have limited fans, be socially distanced, which will be interesting. I mean, they had a friendly between Nashville and Dallas, who were the two teams that didn't compete in the MLS's back tournament. They played. They had limited fans. It was it was a pretty good game. I didn't see the score line at all, but I just heard about it a little bit. So I guess there's improvements to MLS in that, they're going to continue on with the season. They didn't abandon it. It wasn't just a little tournament. They're going to continue and hope for the best. And I think that's the improvements I've seen with the professional sports, that they're committed to playing. They're making it safe for people, making it good for the players. And I think that they're moving in the right direction. So props to MLS for the bubble. Props to them for getting the job done with no cases. It really did suck, I guess, to not see Nashville and Dallas there, but it was for the best because they had cases and they just didn't want to affect the rest of the people in MLS.
It's kind of funny that you say that Atlanta United fans tell Orlando fans they have no history when they've only been in existence for 2 years. But
yeah,
I found that funny. So for the MLS this year, coming up, the upcoming season, what are your predictions? What's going to happen? Who's going to win? Who are the favorites? What's going on?
As they resume, I think right now, I mean, a lot of people had kind of coined LAFC as the favorites to finally, just make that push because they've come up short the last 2 seasons. Atlanta United would have been the favorite because they started out really well in the season before coronavirus hit. But now that Joseph Martinez is hurt, they're going to have some struggles. But I think the 2 teams to be watching for are the New York Red Bulls and LAFC. New York Red Bulls had a pretty good showing in MLS's back tournament. They are looking like a team in the Eastern Conference who will regain their former glory, and I think they could be the favorites to win it all. Also, another dark horse in the Western Conference should be Minnesota United. Minnesota United made it to the semis of the MLS's back tournament. They lost to Orlando, but they have really shown over the last year and a half how good they are and how fast they are on the counterattack. So I think Minnesota should be a team to watch out for come playoff time. So I think in the end, though, LA Galaxy and LAFC will probably be the 2 in the Western Conference that might make the semis, because I think Chicharito and LA Galaxy have a good team. So we'll see about that. And then I think in the Eastern Conference, it'll be New York Red Bulls and probably New York City FC. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them, but I think those 2 New York teams will have a chance. But ultimately, I see LA Galaxy, or not LA Galaxy, LAFC and New York Red Bulls playing for the final in the MLS Cup. And then I see LAFC winning. I think finally it's time for them to get over the hump of coming up short in the last couple of years. And I think LAFC will finally get their first trophy.
All right, great analysis right there. That was a lot. Andy, thank you for coming on the podcast. It was a lot of fun. Haven't seen you in a while, so it was really, really good to see you. Tell everybody who's listening where they can find you and anything about Eagle Eye that you want to share.
Yeah, so I mean, if for people who don't know, Sam and I were both in college last year, and we worked for Eagle Eye TV, Auburn Student Media. I'm now the station manager there for this year in my senior year. I'm really excited to be with this incredible staff that we have. Really excited to work and cover news and sports and just everything going on campus. So if you are looking for any news on Auburn, news on Auburn athletics, you can go to eagleeyeauburn.com. I will also be online. You'll have all of the contact information from our staff on there, and just the latest news going on. So, and we also have a YouTube channel. You can just search Eagle Eye TV on YouTube and see all of our stories. So yeah, just really excited to just get started with that just Monday. It's literally so close. And Sam, I know you worked last year, and man, we miss you so much. Like, seriously, Eagle Eye, I know it was a big impact on you, and you did such an incredible job. And like, we just, like, honestly, I'm so thankful for you and all the sports reporters that I had when I was sports director.
Well, thank you, Andy. I'm thankful for all you guys over there, and I hope y'all kick ass this year. And I hope whatever happens, with Corona and everything, I hope y'all get some sort of sports to cover. And I hope to talk to you soon, preferably after the Champions League, so we can recap on everything, because it's been a lot of fun talking to you and talking about just some football.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks, Sam.